I heard a quote the other day that I wanted to explore more in a video. The quote that I heard was that conservatives think liberals are good people with bad ideas, whereas liberals think conservatives are bad people with bad ideas. Now, I wanted to explore this more in the concept of hate speech versus free speech. Now, pretty much every politician, right or left, will agree that freedom of speech is a good thing. But where they differ is the left will typically say that hate speech is not free speech, whereas the right will say all speech is free speech. Now, of course, there are people on the right who are also against free speech, even though they claim to be. A classic example is MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell started up a social media platform dedicated to free speech, where one of its rules was you cannot take the Lord's name in vain or swear, which, both of those things fall into the category of free speech. Now, how this relates to the bad people with bad ideas versus good people with bad ideas, it gets down to the assumed meaning that each side gives to the other. Now, I've seen many left-leaning people online say that whenever right-wingers talk about free speech, what they really mean is the ability to spread hate and use racial slurs and just be awful people without consequences. That's what they really mean. And if we just allow people to say whatever they want, then they're just going to use that freedom to terrorize minorities. Based on many of the interactions I've had across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and real life, there are genuinely many leftists who actually feel that way. Now, when I talk to right-wing people about what they think the left means when they talk about free speech and hate speech, many of them tend to take the left at face value. They seem to actually believe that what these people want to do by banning certain speech that they call hate speech is actually to protect minorities and different groups. However, what many on the right, who are, stereotypically very critical and weary of government, are worried about is that hate speech laws are going to use to censor people who disagree with the government or whatever ruling class is in power at the time. This is an example of conservatives thinking that liberals are good people who just want to protect minorities and marginalized groups with bad ideas, which is an idea that will allow the state to have more control over people speaking out against them. And the liberals thinking that conservatives are bad people with bad ideas is oftentimes they will say, no, you're just a racist who wants to say racist things without consequences. You don't actually care about people's freedom to express their opinion. So in that context, the good people with bad ideas versus bad people with bad ideas is pretty well played out in how I've seen both sides express their opinions of the others. A lot of this comes from people who assume that the other side is arguing in bad faith. They don't actually mean what they're saying, that they're just trying to cover for a hidden agenda. Which, in all fairness, sometimes people do that. That can be a legitimate concern to have. At least with how it's going now, as long as both sides continue to just assume what the other one thinks and feels, I don't see them as going to be able to communicate with each other because, they're not going to take each other at face value for the most part, and they're just going to assume the meaning. I should probably mention, because I forgot to earlier and I don't want to re-edit this video, is that there are some people on the right who assume bad faith arguments about the left too, that no, they actually just want to censor conservatives and shut up right-wingers, and they're just pretending to care about minorities and oppressed groups just so they can get the power to do that. Which I believe both sides' extreme claims that there are genuinely awful people on the other side who are using the free speech versus hate speech argument just to try to push their agenda. But I also believe that these are like less than 5% of each side. I believe this is a very small minority that just gets assumed to be the majority on often cases. And so that's pretty much it for this video. I might turn this into a series in the future if I can find even more examples of good people with bad ideas versus bad people with bad ideas. So let me know what you think in the comments.